Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader. Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager, and I've got a special guest today, a relatively new friend, but we hit it off, and her name is Deborah Coviello. Thanks for being on, Deborah.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to having this conversation and your audience listening.
Yes, and your work aligns a whole lot with what we do at Trust Edge Leadership Institute and all the work we do around creating trusted leaders. Deborah is the founder of Illumination Partners. She comes out of a whole list of accolades and experience in quality. And so she also is the host of Drop In CEO podcast. That's where I met. Thanks for the invite. And that's been fun. She's author of the brand new book, The CEO's Compass. So we're going to get into some of this, and there's going to be something for everyone today. But Deborah, thanks again for being here.
My pleasure. Can't wait to have this conversation and looking forward to sharing a bit about the CEO's Compass.
I can't wait. So tell us something not on your resume.
Oh, wow. You start with the hard ones, but you know what? It's important to get to know the person. I am a 2017 silver medalist in arena national curling. So I curl, throw stones on ice, sweep real hard, and yell at people, and I do it well.
I saw that you're a board member of, or have been a board member of one of the curling associations. And I think that's fascinating. You know, we're in Minnesota. This is a little sidetrack. Usually I want to get right to the meat, but I will tell you, being from Minnesota, our kids, because of the work we do, they've been able to, go to Africa and beaches and around the world, whatever. One time I was thinking spring break, we just need to do a Minnesota vacation. So we headed north, we did mushing, we did ice fishing. By the way, dog sledding, that was the most fun, amazing thing ever for us up in the Northwoods. We went to the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, and we watched a curling tournament up in Hibbing, Minnesota. So that was our first interaction with curling.
And lest I say, it is also an athletic sport, a very social sport. It's more about the sportsmanship, having an adult beverage before, during, or even after. And just, it's one of those sports that you could be 8 or 80 and still play on the same team and just enjoy the sport and sportsmanship of the game. So I love it. I'm hooked. And if you want to learn more, just reach out to me.
I'm looking forward to that. I think that seems like a super fun sport. I'm not a big golfer and some other things. So that's something we have, many places here in Minnesota. So,
and it's an interesting thing, curling. It is a sport, but there is something about the strategy, leveraging people's skills and capabilities and trying to get the best outcomes. So it is so tied to business. And I have many stories about how curling and business are related.
Let's get into some of those. So a couple things. Let's get into this new book right away. I want to get back to personal in a little bit. We always do that. I think people that, tend to not lead others that well, that don't lead themselves well. And there's some things you're doing that way. But first, let's jump into this book because you've interviewed so many CEOs. You've gleaned all this information. You put it out in this new book, The CEO's Compass. But let's get to the inspiration for this book and a few takeaways we can start to think about right now.
So the inspiration for the book, I'm a recovering writer, blogger, and video person. And I was putting out so much thought leadership content out into the universe that people actually hit me with, Deb, we don't know what you do. We don't know what you stand for. And when it comes to being a trusted leader, and you talk about consistency, so I really took a lot away from your book. I needed to be consistent. People needed to know what was it that I stood for. They knew she was a podcaster. They knew I like video, but they didn't understand the message. So I needed to write the book and distill it down into what is my approach? What have I seen when a leader goes through rapid transformation? They may have been a rock star at one point in time, and then the environment changes. They acquire new people. There's a downsizing. Customer requirements are changed, and then they're off track. And so it all came to me that, there are 7 compass points where you can be off track. And the aha moment was we have to stop being results oriented. Now, that may be a shock because stakeholders, your shareholders, all require us to get results, profitability, market share, et cetera. But that is short-lived. That is not sustainable unless leaders seek true north or peace of mind. And so with all of these different pieces that I have found that leaders are off track, people, process, past, pride, and then there's a myriad of others. True north, peace of mind is what we're trying to achieve because customers don't care about your market share, but they want to know that you have their back. That's trust. That builds brand loyalty. And so ultimately, this book is my framework for not only my experience, but what I have seen through numerous interviews on the Drop In CEO podcast. A leader needs a compass. They may be a little bit off track, and they need to find those compass points to pull on to get them to true north.
I have a few, I had some specific questions prepared, but I'm very curious, as you know. So we need to just jump into before this. Let's just hear the 7. We can't go deep on the 7 in this time. People need to go grab the book, The CEO's Compass, your guide to getting back on track. I haven't even had the opportunity to read it yet. I will, but when this podcast comes out, the book will have just launched. So I need a little teasing too, right, with everybody else listening, as I am looking forward to getting my copy as soon as it comes out. But for now, we've got to hear, what are those 7 compass points?
Okay. Well, thank you so much. But just if you can close your eyes, and hopefully you're not driving when you are listening to this, true north is peace of mind. So north is peace of mind. Then I want you to go northwest and north and northeast, purpose and performance. Often leaders are off track on those 2. They go hand in hand. The next 2, past and pride. That speaks to culture and the humanity and intellectual property. Finally, process and people, which I have a different take on what those are in terms of leadership and developing our people. And then finally, in the southernmost corner is the platform or tools for which we equip our people. So there is a lot in there. You may have heard those terms before, but I think differently, and I present it in the concept of human-centric leadership, which is a little bit different than most leadership books.
What does that mean, human-centric? So I've got my compass right here, and I'm looking at this, but I'm thinking, what is? There's a whole lot of organizations that are moving toward even that naming. Global Force just became work human, right? And there's this movement, even in our culture, toward, I think, humanity and humanness. Maybe COVID brought that out and other things, but what's your take on what that means?
We can throw money, resources, new processes, and things at a problem. That's the easy way to fix things. But I propose to leaders that the solution to most of your problems are within and quite inexpensive, because when we hire people into our organization, we make an investment. And then somewhere along the line, for many organizations, we stop investing in our people. And then that's where we become misaligned on the purpose that people are pursuing, and then aligning everybody lockstep to achieve the performance results. It is so easy to invest in the people, but maybe leaders aren't equipped with the tools to develop the individual and the human dynamics. But I propose to you that if we invest in the humans in all aspects, purpose, performance, past, pride, etc., you protect your investment, because when you don't, the high performers become the steady eddies, and then they fall down the cliff into being poor performers. And the next thing you know, business has an expense. So leaders need to think about investing in human capital. You've heard that before. Human-centric leadership. It is well worth the investment for the long game.
What do you say to people that say, we can't just throw another person at that problem?
I might agree with you, because I think you haven't faced the problem head on. I have a number of people that they said, we need new people. And I said, wait a second, I've got all the talent I need. Well, yeah, they're getting ready to retire. They're only doing this over there. We need to throw another resource at it. And I say, why? I said, what is it about that person in the beginning when you hired them 30 years ago, their past, their culture? What special skills do they have? And why now do they not contribute enough? And why are they quiet? Oh, they're just difficult. Oh, they're just that way. Have you ever had a conversation with them to understand why have they protected themselves? And I think once leaders kind of open up their mind and not write people off and truly understand what is their past and culture and I call it pride. That's the intersection of their humanity and intellectual property, not subject matter expertise, but I elevate the human to intellectual property because companies will recognize the value of intellectual property and protect it and patent it and hold it near and dear. People are the same. And so I would rather not throw people. In fact, I think you probably need less people in your organization because if we don't properly understand the skills, the gifts, and property to develop the people and allocate them to the work they should be doing for you.
This reminds me of the study I saw with the Container Store. It's not this, Container Store is not that exciting of a business type, and yet the CEO, they're winning. They're winning in their space, and they when asked, what is it about you? How does this work? He said, we win on development. In our industry, the average number of hours of developing a first-year employee is 8 hours. We spend 200 hours developing our people, and we believe if we hire right, we can take everybody and make them worth 3 anywhere else. Yes. And that's what's winning. And that's why, the Container Store is winning basically on developing people. This is why I'm partly so passionate. Of course, I'm passionate about trust, but I'm passionate about developing humans because that changes. Attrition goes down, retention goes up, culture changes. So interesting.
And that's a mindset shift for leaders because they think they're responsible for the results and delivering the services or products. But it's a mindset shift. Invest in the people. They're going to take care of you. I mean, it's just a mindset shift. I mean, I had a particular leader that I said, we need to invest in our people. We need to share the strategy with them. They need to know exactly where we're going 3 to 5 years from now. And they said, well, that's nice, but let me focus on the strategy. I need the people heads down doing their work. And that leader's no longer with the organization because their approach was not sustainable.
Reminds me of something we ask here. And the question is it loving toward? Is it loving toward our client? Is it loving toward our employee? Is it loving toward our team? Is it loving toward? It's like, I know love seems kind of soft in a corporate environment, but this idea that is, especially as entrepreneurs where, hey, I can say if people are going to get this benefit or that benefit, if they're going to get time off, if they're going to, and we work hard, we work fast, we work together. It's a pretty open environment just outside of my studio here, but a few things hit me, and that is, I could have power over, and so especially leaders, in my opinion, healthy leaders need to ask this question: but is it loving toward? And we changed the way we even do business in many ways when we started asking that question. Is that loving toward the client? Is it here'd be a simple, different idea, and that is you'd make the most money when we sell this certain product if you offered basically a silver, gold, platinum. And we said, you know what's loving toward them is just saying they can have everything. They can all have platinum at this price because some will use a little bit of this one, some will use a little bit of this one, but what's loving toward them is this way. And so we do need to feed the bottom line, and we need to deal with that, of course, but anyway.
That's quite courageous using such an intimate emotional world such as loving in the context of business. But as I think about, the pillars of the trusted leader, you talk about commitment. And when we talk about people and the significant people in our lives, we are loving onto them. And that's a part of commitment. Why can't we do that same thing to our customers? And you certainly do that yourself.
We're trying, but thank you. Well, I got a little preview ahead of time about some of what's in the book, but this is the question I want to ask from something I read. Why do you think everyone can't be a high performer? Some people think, everybody can be a high performer if we just do this, that, the other thing. What say you?
So I question it that just in general, why can't everybody be a high performer? And that speaks to the human-centric leadership. It talks about your commitment to the humans, building trust in an organization. what I have seen is there is a narrative out there. Corporations, our HR business partners, and we love our HR business process partners because they have to put us through the process of evaluating our people, but we have it all wrong because so often there may be a 9-box approach for which we put people in a box, or, oh, they have to be on a bell-shaped curve. Only 10% can be a high performer. Only 10% can be the poor performer. And everybody is a steady Eddie in the middle. And that's what we believe. And that's what we do time and time again. But I have had people that are high performers. And unless we invest in them, and we do invest in them, but sometimes if we don't invest in the right way, they're so action oriented, they may just leave you if you don't give them the feedback that they're looking for. And then I propose to you, those people that are heads down, that are loyal, they say, oh, they'll never leave the company. They're going to be here until they retire. Have you ever had a conversation with them to ask them what they think versus what they're doing? If we ask them for a transaction, get those reports done, get those orders out, at the end of the day, that is all you're going to get. But going back to the CEO's compass, when you talk about, the outcome and our true purpose of what we're trying to achieve, when you say, hey, what do you think it's going to take to be the favorite of our customers? And I didn't say number one, but the favorite. Ooh, we ask for people's minds. We bring their consciousness to work. And then you might find that person that's been heads down has the answers to the things that have plagued you. They could be the next high performer. And then we go to the poor performer. Do they have a manager that's even given them feedback, place them in the right role? Have we even had a conversation with them? Or have we assumed the narrative that they're labeled as a poor performer? Again, if you've never made the commitment to have a conversation, build that trust, understand their past and their pride, we may have a steady Eddie or your next high performer. I just want to break the narrative to assume people only perform at a certain level, but given a conversation, change the environment. And I can talk about many examples. I've had one person who was written off. They're just a subject matter expert. They're never going to be much more. And then I asked the question about what they wanted. I saw them give a speech one day standing up versus sitting down. And I gave them feedback and I said, you are so powerful when you stand up and give content and information. People leaned into you. They listened to that. They didn't realize the impact. And so a steady Eddie subject matter expert wound up becoming a sought after subject matter expert globally. They were a go-to person under my wing because I took the time to see their value, see their gifts, their intellectual property, and raise them to a high performer. And I want leaders to think about that. Who haven't you spoken to? Your people haven't they spoken to? And could everybody be a high performer? Start from a place of that mindset. You may be surprised.
Hey, it's Ann with the Trust Edge team here. As you know, we are passionate about helping you and your team perform at your best. And that's why David wrote his new book, Trusted Leader. This true-to-life parable follows the story of a CEO who uncovers the root issue threatening his organization's success. And in the back half of the book, David provides a roadmap for even how to solve those root issues. Get Trusted Leader for your team, your organization, or even just for yourself at trustedleaderbook.com.
You mentioned something about feedback, and you talk a lot about feedback, but you have a few words that help people get a better outcome in feedback. Tell me about that.
So if you or your leaders are having one-on-ones with your people and you say, hey, you're doing well. When your employee comes to you and says, how am I doing? And you say, oh, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. Or if they come to you asking for your feedback, let me get back to you. And they never do. I don't think we give people a framework to give feedback or to ask for feedback. And it starts with 3 simple words. It starts with continue, start, and change. Because feedback is such a negative experience. You're afraid of what kind of constructive criticism you might get. But if you start with saying, you should continue to do this, you're really well. Those are the things that play to people's strengths. We want people to continue to do that. And when you give feedback about, you might want to start doing this, because if you start doing it, it may enhance what you're already doing. And then finally, you might want to change this because it may not hurt you now, but it may hurt you in the future. So case in point, you may be an amazing speaker. Get up in front of a group, you command the crowd. You should continue to speak. What might you want to start doing? You are so good at speaking in front of this group. I would love to have you go over to that other group over there. If you start sharing them as a resource with other people can recognize the value and the employee becomes more visible. And then what might you want to change? Maybe the person paces a lot. Maybe they're doing things with their hand. You might want to change that, stop doing that, put a pen in your hand because it detracts from the gifts that you have. Oh, all of that is actionable. All of that is positive. Wouldn't that be a wonderful conversation to have with your employee? Feedback is a gift when you do it in the right way.
Mic drop. Right there. People need that right there. That little idea and way. I love it. So when you give feedback, continue to do this. Start to do that. Change. You might change doing that. Even the wording and the way you say it is important, though. So something else came to mind. All this human-centric leadership, it takes so much time. These leaders are so busy. People would say to me, I can hear people saying, well, I'm too busy to do this perfect view, this so much time on this. What do you say to those that say, oh, it takes too much time because then I won't get the results I want? By the way, here's something I said to my wife. Actually, there's plenty of things I say that are not written down or quoted. But she actually put this week said say that again, and I said something that just came out of my mouth. Mostly, I said it for myself because of the challenges for myself. But I said margin covers a multitude of sins. Like having time covers my. If I have time, I'm not impatient. If I have time, I see the human. If I have time, I don't cut someone off. If I have time, right?
Yeah.
But what do you say to these leaders? Like, yeah, but they don't understand. I've got so much to do. How can I be more human-centric?
So this is a family-friendly hour. I cannot use explicatives in response to that, but I have to throw that out the window. You don't have time because, quite frankly, when the employee comes into your office and says, do you have a moment? Could you avoided that crisis had maybe you had a conversation with them earlier? You have time for a crisis. You have all the time you need. But I would suggest to you, and I am a lean practitioner, I would propose that people need a better approach on evaluating their work content through the day, and they need better decision logic. I talk about this in the CEO's Compass. I plagiarize the Eisenhower model where we talk about what is important and what is urgent. And I think even the best leaders need to reevaluate their work content and say, if it's important and urgent, okay, hopefully that's not too big a crisis. It is your responsibility to do it. But if it's important and not urgent, can you schedule it in the future? If it's important and urgent, you can also delegate it to somebody. And if it's not important and not urgent, just write it off. And sometimes leaders feel self-important by all the flurry of activity. But you know what? I proposed if you spend a little time, shave things off your calendar that you shouldn't do, that you can delegate, you would be amazed at how much time you get back thinking time. And then what are those things that you need to do proactively? I, as a quality improvement professional, I would rather be in a place of preventing things and developing the systems and the processes and having those one-to-ones with your employees. Again, human-centric, invest in the people. You may have people more aligned on a purpose, aligning their performance, and less reactive maintenance. It's about you having the discipline to do the work you need to be doing.
Deborah, you've given us so much in this short time. I love it. The feedback, the 7 Ps that make up a great compass. Do you have 1 or 2 more takeaways from this book that would inspire us as CEOs?
Yeah, great question. There's a couple more points I am really passionate about because I have seen amazing companies grow rapidly and very quickly exceed their human capability. And I talk about corporate destabilization. It is so critical. It happens be in front of your eyes. You have great subject matter experts. You were wonderful as a smaller company. And as you grew, you elevated these people. You should develop them and elevate them to higher level positions. But again, this is an investment in the human. Have you ever given them the essential skills to be able to communicate, to provide feedback, to negotiate difficult situations, to be able to even articulate strong, powerful messages when they disseminate information? And the greater disservice is if they haven't developed these skills, the people below them have nothing to model. So, for example, you may have a leader giving a presentation, they spew information, and they don't understand why people aren't following them or going along with them. I gave you the data. But an essential skill of, okay, here's the information. Here is the risk or opportunity we have in front of us. And here's the impact if we do or do not do it. Simple, essential skills. But we elevate these people and we don't tell them how to do this. And then they wonder why they lose their confidence and they're no longer effective. They leave the company, but also the people under them leave. You have created corporate destabilization. So I propose to you as part of your model, when you elevate and grow, and that's beautiful, think about what are you going to do to invest in your people so they can be developing themselves and the leaders of department of tomorrow. That's sustainability.
Mm-hmm. And what about, then what do I do? How do I keep alignment? You used the word alignment early on. How do I create and keep alignment even as I'm growing?
Well, it does start with the top. Well, ultimately, what is the outcome the overall organization is trying to achieve? And it's very important to have a well-articulated purpose or to a why. Why are we here? Why is it we are here to serve? It is important to be able to look at your top tier, your middle tier, your bottom tier people, and what is it that they need in order to be successful? So for instance, if we say we want to provide the best service in our sector, certainly your customer service people and salespeople understand what service is. But your middle tier people, if they are having handoffs with internal people, they are arguing, they're in silos, they're not communicating, they are not committed to their internal customers. You haven't given them the skills to understand what excellent customer service is. And so then you go down the rank and file. We're working in our silos. We haven't regularly talked about what does it mean to have service level agreements, have internal customer service, because at the end of the day, if the people who are touching your customer are having internal customer service issues, your customer is going to feel the pain, despite all of the PowerPoints, and you're having an amazing customer service and sales department. That is critical for performance, is ensure that everybody has all the skills at all the right level to achieve your purpose. Be aligned, and you'll have the performance results.
Hey, it's Sam from the Trust Edge team. Most training and development initiatives don't last or even solve the root issue hindering your organization. That's where Trust Edge coaching certification comes in. Trust Edge coaches are equipped with a suite of tools to identify, benchmark, and close gaps in trust for good. Because when you solve the real issue, you get measurable results in a culture where people actually want to make an impact. So whether you're a coach with your own clients or a leader training people inside your organization, check out trustedgecoaching.com and see how you can start solving the root issue and get lasting results in your business. And now back to the show.
So let's get personal here just a little bit. What we've learned is this, and I know you've been a leader, you've led other leaders, you've been a voice to leaders, but we know that leaders that tend to do well, that are at least high trusted, tend to lead themselves well. Do you have any, Deborah, and I know imperfect as we are, but do you have habits or routines that make you better as a leader, that help you lead every day? Personal habits that help you be personally healthy?
You know, that's a work in progress. We're always evolving, trying to find those things that just keep us aligned going forward. But I will tell you, there's a couple things that I do. One is setting the right priorities for myself. I used to talk about personally, there's my achievements, my revenue, my brand, and then my health and wellness. And that only got me so far. So I make sure I have the right priorities. This year in 2021, I flipped the priorities. I focus on my time, my health and wellness, my sleep, Ask my husband. I'm a cranky person. If I don't get enough sleep, then I focus on building the trust and the commitment to my customers. And then finally, the revenue and the tangible results. I make sure I have my priorities right every day. But then I too, I can be scattered. I want to change the world. I want to do a lot of things. I have a daily accountability tool. I look at it daily, weekly, monthly, because, sometimes our goals can be lofty and overwhelming. Then we procrastinate and we fail. But if I every day, week, or month can progress forward according to some accountability, even a leader needs accountability despite having that vision out there to keep them going forward. So I regularly review my planner every day. But most importantly, I take time for myself each morning. I just sit there, I evaluate what I need to accomplish, what's most important, get an hour and a half head start on my husband before I have the interruption. But you know what? When I get that, I'm just a better human and I can serve better.
Do you have any questions that you think leaders today should be asking that they're not asking? Like what are we missing?
I mean, just the simple ones on a tactical level. When we meet with our people, are we asking them such questions? Do you have everything you need to be successful? Because that's what our job is. It's not about, hey, how are you doing on that project? Or, hey, are you getting that result? Do you have any issues there? It's really about the human. Ask the question, what do you need to be successful? Kick the boxes. I remember Norm Ringett, I don't even know if he's with us anymore, mid-career, he says, every single morning I would walk around the plant and kick the boxes. Just get the pulse of what people are doing and say, how can I help? How can I help? That's really what our job is all about.
Leaders' job is to help. Well, let's do a couple lightning round questions here as we get going. But first of all, what's motivating you these days?
There's a couple things that are motivating me. And again, it's just one thing at a time, oh my, the book is out. So I'm certainly grateful for having the strength and energy and supporters to get the book out. But what motivates me is just one person at a time. I didn't set out to be a number one best-selling author, but when I have somebody who I coach, and then when we're done, you say, Deb, you made a difference. You made me think about myself different. I got my confidence back. I'm now moving forward to some of my coaching work. When I'm in front of a client and they say, you're a godsend. We couldn't have done this without you. And you get the follow-up work. That is what motivates me every day. But on a personal note, oh my children, hard parenting does pay off. And when you start seeing them making responsible decisions and being productive citizens, that's motivation to keep going. That's really what it's all about. It's my contribution, my commitment for the next generation. That's motivating.
For those listening, you don't see this. For those watching on the YouTube channel, you might. There's a few soldiers and beautiful folks behind you. Are those some of your kids?
Yes, my daughter, 19, architectural student at the University of Kentucky. David over here, he just got his sergeant position, I believe. He is in the Army in Ansbach, Germany. And Daniel down here, he is married. He is 30 years old. He has 3 degrees, MBA, and going to be working in Zurich, Switzerland, along with his wife. They are making a difference. I could go on an entire podcast about their accomplishments, but they're really why we're here, is to leave a legacy.
What a global perspective too that they have. So thank you. There's probably nothing better than for you to create great kids.
When your son, Daniel, down here, spoke in Taiwan in front of 100,000 people on Buddha's birthday and on Mother's Day, because he was a sought out speaker, because he was speaking about youth having a greater voice in the political and economical market, because we don't want people who are generations older than us making decisions, that youth need to have a more active voice. That is a motivating moment to know that I've done the right thing and will still be there to support them in the good and the bad. David, protecting people that can't protect themselves. What a noble cause. Where did children get that? Hard parenting, good values, and finding their way.
Wow. I think we need to skip some of these. That pulls it all together. Do you have any big hope for yourself or your work for the future?
Oh, wow. You, first of all, are an amazing host, because you have caught me with questions that really make me think. And again, that is really what I do for leaders, is I help them to think. But honestly, it's not egotistical, but I do see myself on a stage. The CEO's Compass is just the beginning of me sharing my insights and inspiration, as well as those of other leaders. But if I can impact a leader, a future CEO of a company, because of the work that I've been able to share with them, getting to think differently and not following somebody else's 5-step approach, but really the CEO's Compass helps you think for yourself, evaluate your situation, and pick the road and the compass points you need to. That work is truly the work I want to do on a stage, speaking, sharing with others, and making a difference. That's really what I want to do. And thank you for the opportunity, Dave.
Absolutely. Well, you're the CEO and founder of your own organization. You're the host of the Drop In CEO podcast. You are the author of CEO Compass, the CEO's Compass. Where can we've got one more question we need to close with, but before that, where would you like our listeners to find you? Many want to find out more. Everybody knows. Go to thetrustedleadershow.com to see the show notes. Tell us, where can we find out about you?
Simplicity in the website, Drop In CEO, DROPINCEO.com. That is where you can find me, and all the links to my social media, how to connect with me with my book, the podcast, blog, and many more resources coming real soon. But my sandbox is LinkedIn. You can connect with me there, Deborah Coviello, the Drop In CEO. I'd love to have a conversation with you and see how I can help you and give you a compass.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing your insights. Last question. It's the Trusted Leader Show. Who is a leader you trust and why?
One, I'm going to use Dory Clark. Dory Clark writes a lot of great content. She is a thought leader. She is a marketing brand expert. She has written 3 books, Stand Out, Reinventing You, and Entrepreneurial You. Yes, she's an expert, but she is living proof. She is living the journey. And as she's writing her story, she is writing her 4th book, The Long Game. Everything she talks about being authentic, developing your personal brand, standing out, being the leader you're meant to be, celebrating your unique thoughts, yours in the trusted space, mine in the CEO space. She's authentic, she's consistent, and I love following her work.
Thank you. Great recommendation. And a whole lot of insights today. Deb, thank you, thank you, thank you. To all of you, thanks for joining us. This has been the Trusted Leader Show. Until next time, stay trusted.